guys, welcome to another episode of the E-commerce Lab by Ecomcy, the place for everything related to Amazon, FBA, private label, and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, your founder here for Ecomcy, and today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, which is basically everything that's going on in the exit space. And today we'll bring a very close friend of mine. We can see here on the screen, John Hefter. And he's the basically founder and also the SVP brand strategy used to be at Thrasio, which is basically was the top company and aggregator in the space when it comes to, helping Amazon brands to exit. And now he's actually, moving to the Gonor Group, which is also one of the leading aggregators and operators in the Amazon space. And today I want to bring John to talk about what is going on and basically what sellers can expect when it comes to exiting. So, John, it's a pleasure to have you here on the show, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for being here. I think the first time we met was here in London over a year ago on an event. I don't remember the name of the event, but I remember you were there on the panel, and it was back when you were with Thrasio and always, sharing top quality content as always. And I'm looking for the same today. I'm pretty sure you're gonna share a lot of tips when it comes to exiting. And before we jump into that, I usually on these shows I like to get a lot regarding the background of the people that come on the show, because they all have amazing things to share, especially you that you did this amazing company Thrasio. So maybe tell us a little bit about all the journey from how you found the Thrasio, and then from Thrasio you went to Go North, and then we go into today's topic.
Yeah, you got it. No problem at all. So the Thrasio story was sort of an interesting kind of serendipitous start, I would say. Carlos had a Facebook ad agency. He was one of the other co-founders of the company. And this was, in the 2017 timeframe. He started to notice that a lot of his customers who had mainly had regular sort of Shopify e-commerce stores were having a ton of success on Amazon.
Yeah.
And it just sort of like put a bug in our ear. And I used to consult with Carlos, and we were neighbors, and we were thinking about actually launching some of our own brands originally.
Okay.
And then Carlos had some conversations with Josh, who's one of our other co-founders, who had a very serious fundraising and finance background. And he'd been kind of like wrestling with the idea of doing some kind of roll-up of some kind at some point. And so Carlos sold his ad agency. We started hanging out like a few days a week, maybe like 3 or 4. He has this beautiful wine cellar in his basement, and we would just talk about life and about business. And eventually the conversation sort of got it to be more serious around the Amazon space.
Nice.
And I think it was December of 2017 when I first opened up my laptop and just literally typed in Google, how do you buy an Amazon business? Right.
Yeah.
And so we started there. We brought Stephanie on like right away to do outreach for us. And by April of that year, we were a real business. And we were off and running and buying. And our original thesis was that like we could take some of these brands that were undervalued because they'd had some success, but then had faltered and revive them. And it was a really bad thesis. We then sort of switched it over to be like, oh, we should be buying leaders in the space or close to leaders and making them better. So we had a couple flops at first, but then we had a couple really big hits. And one of the hits that was most famous for Thrasio was probably Angry Orange, which was sort of my baby. And I really think that brand was the spark plug that launched this entire M&A industry. We were able to raise literally billions of dollars off of that story.
I remember all the headlines all over the place.
And then from there, everyone else was too, right? So my time at Thrasio, we acquired over 200 brands. And then we had whatever it was, over 50, let's say, copycats at one point of people just trying to sort of do the same thing. And there's a lot of loose and fast money coming in. There's a lot of cash that had to be deployed fast. There's only so much Amazon management experience out there. So that was limited. And so people were buying like crazy. Multiples went up. There was a COVID bump, which kind of artificially inflated a lot of brands. And that basically created, in essence, like a market collapse.
That's
right. It was just like a rocket ship up and then a bubble bursting. And now we're sort of in, let's call it the beginning of the second wave. And I think we're all hoping for more of a steady ride this time around. So, and that's what really interested me in Go North was my favorite time at Thrasio was really that period when it was the first four of us to, let's say, like 150-ish people.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. Like you could really be hands-on. You could really make an impact on brands, make changes quickly. And once you get larger, it becomes really hard to do things at speed, and it becomes more about organizational structure and stuff like that. And for me, I really like the hands-on part. So
I understand.
I walked in the Go North office for the first time. I could feel the culture in there. It's just like an exciting, happy place where people want to, do good things. And I just wanted to go on the ride again. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Johan is doing an amazing job when it comes to Go North, but I totally understand you. I mean, you went from a team of 4 to 10 people to now over 1,000 people. And I can totally understand like the complete a huge difference between the workflow and the control you could have over all these brands. And I bet you were missing that, that initial thing that you were lacking, the fact that you could control all these brands inside out, and then it was reaching a point that it wasn't the case anymore. Totally understand. But I think before we jump into the Go North side of things, I'm proud of what you guys have done with Thrasio. I mean, when you guys entered the space, I remember you guys were the big dogs. Everybody was looking about everything you guys were saying about the aggregator space. I remember all the other aggregators were coming behind you. And the fact that you guys made it so far is definitely admirable. So congrats on that. And now just jumping into your journey with Go North. I feel like I totally agree with that. Now the second wave of aggregators is very interesting, to be honest, because now I feel like people on this second wave that are actually surviving in the aggregator space, they really know what they're doing, and this is mainly due to all the costly mistakes they did during the first wave. They understood what are the things people were doing wrong, and now a lot of things are changing in the second wave. For example, one of the big things I'm being seen that's changing a lot is that before, I remember people were buying the business and then completely removing the founders. Now I see more like hand in hand methodology where you bring the founder on board and you actually keep them with all the processes, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that create the brand. And that's something that, I would like to touch a little bit forward during today's episode. However, before we go into all the technicality, I think something that I would like to ask you so we can kickstart the topic today is something that people ask me all the time, right? And it's basically, people always ask me, what are the main factors right now that drive valuation? Because a lot of clients that work with us are people that see me at events and people that know me. They always say, I'm preparing my brand for exit. And I really want to understand where I should be putting my time and my money, in terms of my processes and building the whole thing for preparing for that big payday. So being said that, maybe you can tell us a little bit of, now that you're working with Go North and overseeing all these deals and brands, maybe what are some of the things you would say that right now are key to get the best valuation when it comes to exiting your Amazon brand? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, there's some standard things and then there's some not so standard things. So the things that will get the highest valuations are real intellectual property and a really, let's say, a moat built around your product that predicts its future success.
Okay.
Right. So if I had a patented product or a formula or something like that no one could penetrate, that was selling really well, that had like a lot of subscribe and save, that had real brand feel around it, like that's like the perfect storm of things, right? Because we're not buying on past results, we're really buying on what we think the future will be.
That's right.
So if we see a brand that's selling a standard product from China, and then there's 15 more competitors have just entered the space and there's a price war to the bottom,
yeah,
that that product, that product's not going to get the same level of valuation as something that has something special to it. That being said, like what we really look for, and I think what most people in the space will look for is simplicity, right? So there's when we look at a brand, we really look at the SKUs that we want to keep. Often there are ones that we just don't really want, right? There's also some people will say, well, I should diversify marketplaces. So they'll throw their product into 19 different spots. And really it might increase the revenue by 7%. But the overhead management for an aggregator to deal with all that stuff just makes it not worth it, right? So to me, like good product selection, good leadership position with a nice moat, with real reviews that are of high quality, and something that we can make a reasonable prediction that this thing is going to be a success. That's what gets you a good valuation. That's what gets you people interested in buying. And if you can build a brand on top of that, or if there is some intellectual property, those are the next layers up.
Yes.
Right. So, sure. Like generally, most people don't want a company that has, let's say a company that's doing $2 million in sales, but they have 150 SKUs. That's too much complexity. It's a mess, right? We'd much rather have like a $10 million brand that has 2 SKUs.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's the magic, is really leaning into what's working for you as an Amazon business and making the strongest stuff as strong as possible without adding too much complexity.
Yeah. And I agree on a fact that you mentioned that's so important, which is the fact that nowadays with all the content you see out there that people tell you you need to diversify, which of course is very important. People do the mistake of what you say, opening the Shopify website, they go to all these other marketplaces, and the thing is because most of them don't have the experience doing this because they come from an Amazon background. I think actually in if you do those things and you do it wrong, and then on the P&L that actually looks more as an expense and a negative thing, right, than an opportunity to explore, I guess that also could affect the multiple, because I guess sometimes it's better to sell it as an explore opportunity, right, and doing it yourself and showing that it didn't work, right? Maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's fair.
Yeah. Good. And now regarding the valuation side of things as well, and so we can close this question, would you say that also being across multiple marketplaces, what I mean by this, within the Amazon ecosystem, so let's say a US brand is also across all the European ones and Mexico, Canada, would also that add complexity when it comes and affect the multiple, or will it be more at the SKU level when it comes to that the logistics behind it?
It adds a little bit of complexity, so it makes things just slightly less attractive, but not entirely.
Okay.
Right. That's the way I would look at it. It's if you're selling in Germany, UK, US, and Italy and things like that, it's, again, we have to think of on the back end of a company taking that in, we have finance people, we have supply chain people, and all. It just adds this extra weight that we do calculate before we make an offer.
Of course. Now, another thing I also want to touch regarding, all the process of preparing for an exit. It's a lot of people sometimes also have the question, when is the right time, right? And what I mean by this, sometimes are within the 1 year of selling. Some people are within 3 years down the line. Some people think it's more about the profitability level of the business. And I know there isn't a one answer for all these cases, but maybe there's a general guidelines regarding, when you're reaching certain level of this revenue and certain levels of this profitability, that's when it would make sense to open the conversation. Otherwise, it would be a waste of time. And being said this, do you have maybe some guidelines regarding, based on what you're seeing right now, that's attractive to investors that you should keep in mind? Maybe a revenue level, profitability level? Are there some insights you can share? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think for most people in our space, you should be doing at least $1 million in revenue, I think, at minimum, before you enter the market. And the profitability or so should be, at the very lowest, this is too low for us, like 12% and higher if possible, but sometimes not too high, because too high can mean there's just going to be a price race down, right?
It's coming the wave.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, I would say like some sort of, let's say 6 months to a year and change of really steady performance. Right. So reliable results, or if it's seasonal, then 2 seasons that show maybe, a history of what your products can do.
Okay. Interesting. And when it comes to this, also tying this to this question so we can finalize this point, will you also say there are certain categories right now that are more attractive than others, based on, again, this also got tied to the complexity and also the issues that you may have in terms of compliance and all that. So is there something that you will say, and this maybe also applies to, some Amazon sellers that they exited and they want to enter again the game again, and they may think, okay, maybe I do this category because these ones are the ones getting the biggest multiples. Is there something, Mary, you can share some light there in terms of which categories are more attractive nowadays? Yeah.
I think it's still pretty category agnostic. Maybe there's some others in the space who are more focused in a certain niche. But it goes all back to the values that we previously talked about. It's not the category. It's more, do you have a brand? Do you have IP? Do you have a mode? Do you have reliable sales that looking forward? Because we'll know too, and that's what a lot of people will put their brands up to market when they feel the pressure of like a price war coming on. Like obviously as professional due diligence people will know that too.
Yeah.
Right. So if that is the case, people just have to be realistic with their expectations of what they're looking at. But I'd still say it's pretty category agnostic.
Awesome. Now I want to start focusing a little bit more on Go North Group. I've been following them for a while now. I love what Johan and all their team are doing now that you're part of their team. And I think something that, I want to learn more from you now that you're inside the processes and everything they're doing is learn more about what makes you guys different from the rest, right? You're definitely doing things different than the rest. That's why you've been on the game for so long now, and and you definitely have a good presence and people talk very nice things about what you guys are doing. So I just want to learn from you that you're inside now. What are the things that maybe you're seeing that you guys are doing, if you can share, that you definitely think makes you different than the competition and the other ones that are trying to catch up?
Yeah, I think some of it is just after the first collapse, right? There was a lot of really smart Amazon people all of a sudden available, right? Who had real chops in brand management and building brands and creative for Amazon, and even supply chain and understanding how Amazon's different from other companies and IPI scores and things like that. So Go North was in a position where they were raising money when everyone else was sort of like running for the hills. And then yes, and then there was just access to really kind of smart people everywhere. So that's what I found there. What's really different is that there's a lot of Amazon experience in the room, a lot of really smart people across all the domains where you need to be good at Amazon. And now, like, adding someone, like myself, and we've added Ken from our team too, to really improve our pipeline and build that up, is we'll just know when to grow and when to stay still.
Yes.
And that'll be the big change of things. It's actually it's pacing this business, where before it was just exploding rocket ships, right?
Just deploying the money as fast as possible and see what happens there.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think we're going to do things in a much more controlled and subdued environment, and with smart people in the room. I think that'll be the key to success. And reputationally, I want to do what we did originally at Thrasio, which was be good to sellers, and get a reputation that we are good to do business with, and get the name out there. I mean, Go North is relatively new to the game. Obviously, I was with one of the giants before. Not too many people know that we're out there, and not many people know that there are still active buyers out there in the market. So they might be holding on to, you know, their brands and they want to sell, but they just thought there was, after the collapse, there was no market, but there is, and there, you know, there will be going forward.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely tell you that you guys are doing a very good job when it comes to reputation, because as I told you, everybody says nice things about what you guys are doing. And that's why I wanted to ask you this question, just to learn what you guys are doing to achieve this steady growth and be able to differentiate from the other ones, which are definitely, and we agree, struggling, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to what you guys are doing at Gunnar, a group, right? And when it comes to your integration with Amazon sellers, it will be interesting to know if you guys are doing maybe something different when it comes to the after sale approach. And what I mean by this is, as you know, from the first wave, the very common approach was just fully buying the brand altogether and then taking full ownership on operations. Then we start to see a little bit more a hybrid approach where maybe they come more as a partner and they keep the founder on board, which is what I mentioned initially, which is why I'm bringing this now to the table. And I wanted to hear your taking in terms of what is now the typical setup you're looking to achieve with the founders that are looking to exit with you. Are you looking more to take full ownership of this brand and bring them under your umbrella? You're looking more to bring all these founders as part of the team and use their knowledge and their mistakes, as you guys have done with all these people coming from other aggregators, to have a more educated, approach to things. So yeah, what is usually now the setup you feel Gunnar is more aiming towards when looking for an exit? Yeah.
I mean, we're capable of managing our own stuff, but you know, for me, integrating the seller with the next chapter of the brand is very important.
Okay.
So, an ideal scenario, we kind of want them along with our journey for at least a year at varying levels, right? So, I just think it's important because there's so much, you know, no one knows their space like people who have created leadership positions in their space. Right. So that knowledge isn't easily transferred. It takes time. And, you know, that's maybe one of the mistakes we did at Thrasio was just, we try to do as a selling point, like, just give it to us. We'll make your life easy. Right. And that was a good selling point. It worked. But I think a more mature way to look at it is, no, we want to integrate with the sellers to make sure that the brand continues to have its, you know, its path upward and doesn't stall because there's been some knowledge transfers that didn't happen.
I see. Yeah, of course. I think the nice thing of having the sellers on board as well is that they're able to transfer their vision in terms of what the brand should be in the long term, with more capital, with a bigger team, which sometimes if you guys just purchase a brand and detach that brain from it, it's like, yeah, you're running without a head. You don't really know what was the vision in the first place, and then it's very difficult to basically keep growing that maybe community or that brand feeling the founder put in the first place, which is what makes a brand successful in the first place. Now, I want to start also touching a little bit about what is the future when it comes to the space, right? So what I mean by this is like we have now the second wave. We're seeing the space becoming more and more professional in terms of having all these people coming from the first wave and now having all this experience. But I would say, do you see this having even a third wave, maybe we could call it, coming to the space? What are some of your predictions happening? Because I see some of the things I'm hearing, and maybe you can give me some insights because you have more experience on this now, is that we see a lot of sellers sometimes now being more on the defensive because, you know, they were coming from this bubble, they were having some multiples in mind, and now some of them are now having these multiples, so they're staying out of the market. So potentially, if this now all these sellers come again to market, we could see an increase in multiples. So what is your take on that? Do you see maybe a third wave coming of more money coming into the business and having all these crazy multiples again, or it's not really realistic at this stage now?
I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna be raising debt right now, right? It's really hard to access, and I think there will be some private equity money coming to space, slow and steady. Like, I don't think we're going to see another explosion anytime soon.
Yeah.
In the, let's say, the aggregator space. I think that some of the bigger guys who have settled down a little bit or settling down are going to start buying again. You know, we'll be buying, but I see like a pretty boring market for at least the next couple of years, right? Multiples will be, you know, a lot of upfront payments around 2, you know, maybe as high as 3.5. I think that's really realistic, unless someone has just a really kick-ass brand. Yeah, you know, that's like, you know, like if someone, if someone brought an Angry Orange, like maybe you can get, you know, something more for that, or a private equity firm would pay for that. But I think the realistic expectations is that you're going to get a deal. It's not going to be all upfront cash. There'll be plenty of opportunity to have an earnout that will get you way more than a 2 or a 3 upfront, you know. But again, you're going to have to go on that journey with the sellers. And I wouldn't, like, if you're tired and you're thinking about selling, or you just, it's time, you have a new, or you're onto your next silver ball, and you have this nice brand that's there, like, I don't think holding on to it right now to wait for the next big wave. I mean, you could be waiting a really, really long time.
And the brand could go under, more competition coming. Yeah.
The brand could go under, and, you know, like, this next wave could prove to be unsuccessful, and then there's no market. Right? Like, who knows? Like, the world's a very crazy place. It's hard to predict things. So I don't, you know, I've told people on podcasts in the past at Thrasio, I always try to tell the world as I see it, so people trust me and therefore trust the companies I work with and things of that nature. Like, you know, I would tell people who was like, oh, hold out, like this big wave of money is coming. But all the information I'm getting and the few events that I've been to, it's not, right? There's some private equity money that has to be deployed, and people are looking for stuff. And so there will be some, right? But I don't think we're going to be
levels. Yeah.
No, you know, we're not going to go from a place where there, you know, where there's, you know, 1 to 3 people bidding on a brand back to where there was 17 people bidding on a brand in a price war. Those days are over, I think, for a really, really long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. That's awesome. And I think now, to conclude, you know, just to pick a little bit more on your brain regarding this space, I would like to ask you if, you know, if let's say you're a seller, right? And you getting started now, or you're in the process of exiting, what are some of the mistakes now that you're seeing hundreds of brands and hundreds of deals that you will avoid to make sure you have the smoothest exit towards the market right now? What are some of the things you would advise, so we can conclude?
Yeah, I mean, again, just try to have a clean house. Have your accounting done professionally, and make sure it's, you know, like accrual-based accounting, and you know, have clean up old inventory that you need to sell through and get rid of. Don't leave a mess. Deliver something that's clean, that's presentable, and go into the deal making process like understanding that the buyer is buying for the future, and they're going to have a vision of that. So don't hide things. Right. Because they'll be found. And then they'll be halfway through the deal process, and then things will get messy. And if you're not, you know, if you're not prepared, or if you are not comfortable negotiating yourself, you know, a broker can be a good choice for some people, right? Because they'll be on your side, telling you what reality is. And that's what, you know, like, you're trying to sell on upside, and the buyers are trying to buy. Really, all we're doing is assessing risk.
That's right.
Right, with some opportunity too as well. But the risk part is the one up front. It's like, we need to make sure what we're buying is going to at least be stable, right? And then the growth pieces, which we'll do, those take months and months and months to implement. Right. So that's how I would do that. And you know, most deals are done off of profit. So just be aware of that. Well, we can carve some things out for new launches and things like that. Try to have a healthy and profitable brand to bring to the table. That's what are we going to do with a $3 million brand that, you know, has $80,000 in profit?
Yeah,
nothing.
Yeah,
right.
Of course. Very good. Thank you, John. I mean, I appreciate your knowledge. I'm always, you know, thankful for everything that you share at events and podcasts. So thank you for being here on the show. And now, before we conclude, I just want to ask you if you can share maybe how people can reach out to you. You know, sellers are looking to exit, or maybe they have more questions about what you shared today. And also, you know, maybe they want to get in reach with GoNorth Group to start the exit journey, you know?
Sure, that's great. Yeah, so you can always find me on LinkedIn. You can also find Ken Kubek, who's our senior M&A advisor as well, if you're looking to exit. I'm john.hefter at gonorth.co if you want to reach me via email. And those are probably the best ways to get in touch with us, or you can just go to the GoNorth website and go through the funnel there, whatever's easiest.
Awesome. That's great. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put all the links down in the description. And that should be John. So yeah, looking forward to have you maybe again, you know, next year to see if that third wave came or not and discuss it forward. But in the meantime, thank you for your time and wish you all the best at this new position with GoNorth. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.